It's been over 11 years since this bad boy has been released. The OG, the original absolute first iPhone ever. And in this video, I'd like to take a moment to appreciate just how far we've come and compare it to Apple's latest iPhone XS Max in the absolutely gorgeous gold color and 512 gigabytes. So let's explore a lot of differences here from hardware, packaging, pricing, using them, displays, just everything. The contrast is immense here. 11 years of technology is absolutely crazy. And I've started doing these videos since the iPhone 7, and looking back at them, it's kind of cool just to get that perspective of where we were at the time versus where we started. Anyways, I wanted to start with the packaging. So the iPhone XS Max packaging, pretty familiar. I've done a video on that just a little bit ago. The original iPhone was also very similar. It's just the only difference I'd say is it was a little bit more wasteful. There was some plastic instead. Apple went on a diet with their packaging, tried to make it as efficient as possible, less plastic, just more eco-friendly. But overall, it remains very similar in appearance. On the front, we have an embossed, version of the iPhone. On the sides, the iPhone tag. You have the storage. Instead of being on the side, it's now on the back. But overall, very reminiscent of each other, and I love this. All right, so let's take a look at these phones. It's kind of crazy how tiny the original iPhone is. It's the smallest iPhone Apple has ever made, whereas the iPhone XS Max is the largest Apple has ever made. And I don't see that size increasing anytime soon unless there's a crazy consumer demand for some huge iPhones. But overall, I think the new one is perfect. I thought the original was perfect, the size-wise, the 3G, 3GS at the time. But man, does time fly, and so do our expectations of what we should be getting out of a phone. So upon first appearance, they're pretty similar. Glass front, except that the old one has a home button. Actually using it, the slide to unlock feature is iconic. It's definitely really nostalgic just to go back and experience that. And you do have a passcode lock. Now you have Face ID and a swipe up instead of a swipe right. So I like that Apple kept that sort of swiping interface intact. And what's crazy to think is that the iPhone XS Max is about as wide as the iPhone 2G or the original is tall. That's crazy. I mean, screens have gotten so big. This is 3.5 inches versus 6.5. And the actual design of both of these is scary similar, actually. The original is just a little bit fatter. The iPhone XS Max looks like it's just been flattened down. As for the ports, we have the old 30 pin and the new lightning adapter, which hasn't changed in, since the iPhone 5. And of course, you have no headphone jack on the XS Max. On the original, you did need an adapter to use it unless you were using original Apple headphones. The power buttons here are a little bit different. Apple used to use a rubbery touch. Now it's just a stainless button. As for the durability, the original iPhone was like a tank for me personally. I couldn't break it in my tests. It was pretty resilient, whereas the new iPhone XS actually broke so fast and just from a waist height drop downwards. So even though Apple says this is the world's most durable glass, the original iPhone would like to say something about that. And just in my personal experience, I've been using the iPhone since the original 3G. My first was the iPhone 4 with service, and I've never broken one on accident until it came to the iPhone X design. So there's certainly something to say about the durability of older phones. And I doubt this was intentional in any sort of throwback way, but the new globe wallpaper is very reminiscent of Apple's old wallpaper, the actual Earth globe that they shipped with the original iPhone. So kind of like that in a throwback way. And yes, it's not an actual planet. This is just a bubble. It's called a bubble planet. It's the official artwork anyways. So the original iPhone came in this aluminum finish, and that's it. You had no options, just that. The new one comes in these beautiful 3 finishes. The silver is probably the closest to being a throwback. And all right, let's take a look at the biggest differences between these two, and that would be the display. So on the left, we have a 6.5 inch Super Retina display, the sharpest, largest display Apple has ever shipped, named the best display ever by DisplayMate. On the right, we have a 3.5 inch multi-touch LCD display. Now, the viewing angles were not great at all. As soon as you tilt your phone, the reflectivity was too much and you just couldn't see much. On the new one, it really has some great viewing angles. And look at those colors. Oh my goodness, what a world of difference. Not only is the iPhone XS Max sharper, but you get so much more. You can see, the whole picture on that display. And I mean, look at the darks. Absolutely gorgeous. The colors, vibrancy is just so much better in every way. Organic LED is better than LCD. All right, now comparing these screen sizes, you can actually take the original iPhone wallpaper just like this, and now you can pop it in here this many times. Literally, it's insane how big of a difference there is here. So that equals to 22 times placed into the display of the iPhone XS Max. The iPhone XS Max really has some insane speakers. It puts so many phones to shame, and comparing it to the original, what a difference. 90 decibels versus 103, but not just that, the booming sound. But hey, at least the original had cover flow. And interestingly enough, there are still 19 wallpapers on the iPhone XS Max and 19 on the original. Apple refuses to add or remove any below that 19 number. The selection was way more diverse though on the original. I definitely like that. You have things like the Starry Night, the Mona Lisa, even the blue jeans at one point or another, but pretty cool. And another thing that boggles my mind is that we have 512 gigabytes of storage on our iPhones. That's half a terabyte. The terabyte iPhones will surely be coming sometime in the future, but that's just insane. I can't even begin to imagine filling up 512 gigabytes. The original shipped with 4 gigabytes. It was a limited edition run. It was canceled within a few months, but 4 gigabytes versus 512. What a contrast. That's 128 times more storage on this year's iPhones. This one is the most interesting to me, how far we've come in terms of processors. The original iPhone processor was made by Samsung. It was a 90 nanometer process with roughly 70 million transistors. The new one has 7.9 billion transistors. It's developed in-house by Apple. It's the first 7 nanometer chip in a smartphone. Absolutely crazy how far Apple has come in terms of just the processors and performance. And to put that into further perspective, here are the Geekbench scores from then versus now. It was just 135 back then versus 11,476 for a multi-core 6-core processor versus the original. Even clock speeds were insane. 0.41 gigahertz then versus 2.49 gigahertz on just one high-end core now. All right, so quickly, I'd like to take a moment to give you a snapshot of what life was like compared to what we're used to today in terms of speed. So with everything cleared out in the app switcher on the XS Max, let's launch some basic things such as settings. 1, 2, where it launches instantly. You do have a delay on the original iPhone. Try camera, 1, 2. Oh man, you gotta wait for that shutter to open, and then you take a picture. Look at this. Look at the difference between these. 1, and wow, then you're ready. Like, you can take 10 pictures in the time it takes to take one just on the original iPhone. Kind of a marvel at how much of a difference there is. It's the simple things too, like entering an app and leaving it right away on the iPhone. Whereas here, there's a long delay until you can get back to the home screen. So usability-wise, quite the difference. You did have Google Maps back in the day and YouTube Video, which was nice. Now they're separate applications. And this is what gaming looked like back then. When the App Store came out and you were able to install some games, yes, there were some 3D games that took advantage of that very poor Samsung-made CPU. It wasn't great, but it got the job done for some. And I do remember faintly playing games like this, mostly this ball one, possibly Jelly Car, Doodle Jump, stuff like that. It's pretty bad, as you can see. Now we're blessed with this full screen immersion, much faster GPUs, 50% faster than even last year's iPhone, and just the amount of processing power, the amount of graphical power you have on this rivals some high-end consoles, even just a couple of years ago. And oh man, don't even get me started on using this thing. So here's apple.com on both, loads instantly on the XS Max. You can start shopping right away. Here, yeah, it's a lot of waiting, endless waiting, and more waiting. But finally it does load. Well, you'd like to think it loaded, but no, there's still more. Surprisingly, Apple is still supporting the original iPhone on their website, so it does work. You can buy the new iPhone XS Max directly from your first iPhone. It's time for an upgrade, I think. Kind of a trippy experience to navigate on this thing though. It has like no awareness of where the screen should end. It like goes into new pages. It's kind of strange, but does work if you have the patience for it. And let's take a look at those cameras. So a 2 megapixel shooter on the original versus Apple's latest dual 12 megapixel camera, which has some very impressive results thanks to the Apple A12 Bionic. The original wasn't that bad though. Yeah, it wasn't very sharp. It could still take some pretty decent pictures. It didn't have optical image stabilization, barely any post-processing. In fact, I believe there were none at all. And unofficially, the video which I'm showing you, which it's not even supposed to record, only possible because of a jailbreak tweak, is still pretty watchable.
For the 2G, you can't have both parts lit up. Yeah, so kind of amazing here. what a difference 11 years make.
And I'd like to take a look inside the phones. Something that we as consumers don't usually see, but something Apple takes immense pride in, is designing the interior of these phones. And through years of optimizations, Apple has made the insides of their phones just as beautiful as the outsides. The compactness, the overall efficiency is so amazing, and on the original iPhone, it just wasn't there. Now, obviously, in 11 years, a lot more happens than just a larger phone. There are many technologies, things that I haven't talked about, but despite all that, let's talk about the price. When the original was released with 4 gigabytes at $499, that equals to roughly about $600 in today's money. The next step up, which was basically the one everybody bought, $599, was about $730. So price-wise, it did get more expensive over time, but with all the new technologies added, I guess you can sort of say it's an inflation on the innovation. So there it is, guys. That is 11 years of iPhone. Really awesome to make these kind of videos, and I'll see you guys next year on the new iPhone 11 versus the original iPhone comparison. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. Really always great to go back and enjoy the nostalgic times, even though they weren't always that great. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.